Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the first program on Taqdeer, we presented the Qur'anic concept of Taqdeer. And we went through all the verses of the Quran that talk about the Taqdeer and its nature. And we concluded that Taqdeer comprises of all the natural laws, systems, and processes of nature which cause the universe to evolve into its current shape, and they are the same by which the universe is operating and which we are all bound by. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to create this universe and he said kun be, and suddenly there was a big bang and the universe came into existence into its initial form. The whole program of Taqdeer was implemented and determined right at that time. So it consists of all laws, rules, systems, and processes needed to create the kind of universe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to create and to operate the way He wanted it to operate and to enable it to sustain human life and its needs, and for it to destroy itself at the last day or last moment for the day of judgment. So all of those laws and the processes and the system which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala implemented right at that time of saying kun, that is the taqdeer of the universe until the day of judgment. Now, we can also call it the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this universe. And this plan is based on the infinite knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it was executed due to the infinite power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Holy Quran talks about this taqdeer, it also mentions ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ, that this is the predetermination or taqdeer by the Almighty, all-knowing. We can understand this taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means the taqdeer implemented by and determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us and for this universe by making into 5 different levels or forms to make it so that we can understand it easily. So at the top level is the taqdeer of the whole universe. This is the taqdeer applicable to everything in the universe. Then there is the taqdeer applicable only to the living organisms. Then there is the taqdeer applicable to animals. And then there is the taqdeer applicable to all human beings. And then lastly, taqdeer of individual persons. So now we will look into these one by one in detail. So the taqdeer of the whole universe, or we can call it universal taqdeer, this consists of things like the initial parameters and constant. When universe came into existence at Big Bang, all the initial parameters and constants, the values and the attributes of subatomic particles such as their charge, spin, mass, the strong force, the weak force, the electromagnetic force, the gravity, the speed of light, Planck constant, etc., etc., all these kind of things, that all laws of physics and quantum mechanics that govern everything in this universe, that is the universal taqdeer. Without this taqdeer, the existence of the universe in its current form and our existence would have been impossible. This taqdeer made our existence and our sustenance possible. So taqdeer of all living entities includes not only the universal taqdeer, plus all the biological laws, systems, and processes such as the genetic material, RNA, DNA, genes, chromosomes, which determine the life of all living things such as algae, fungi, plants, viruses, germs, animals, and humans. It also includes epigenetics that impact the gene expression. So all aspect of physical life, cell and organ functions, aging and death, all are pre-programmed by the taqdeer coded in genetic material and these biological laws. So this is the biological taqdeer of all living entities or organisms. Then we come to the taqdeer of all animals. So taqdeer of all animals consists of the universal taqdeer, the biological taqdeer, as well as instincts. So what are instincts? Any behavior performed without being based upon prior experience, or you can say unlearned behavior, absence of any learning. And that instincts are therefore an expression of innate biological factors, and or we can also say that that is genetically determined behavior pattern. The example of instinctive behavior is fight or flight, which is applicable to all animals, and it also includes things like animal courtship behavior, the building of nests for birds, shaking water from wet fur, just as dogs do or other animals do. If we look at particular instinctive behavior of certain animals, for example, the sea turtles which are hatched at the beach immediately after coming into uh, being born, they instinctively move towards the ocean. A marsupial climbs into mother's pouch upon being born. Honeybees communicate by dancing in the direction of food source without formal instruction. Um, Even take the example of a newborn spider, and it immediately can weave a perfect web, which is the kind of web that species is pre-programmed to do. So although they have never seen a web before or spun one, they can still spin it because of the instinctive behavior. Now, we should remember that instincts impact human behavior as well, not only animals, but its impact on human behavior is more for babies. But and it includes things like suckling. When the child is born, it knows how to suckle and uh, get fed by milk. Um, Also, the example will be the crying, anger, sadness, fear. So all innate fears are included in instincts. But one thing we should remember about human instincts is that when people become adults, they have the capability to override their instincts. They have a capability to respond in a better manner than what instincts dictate to them. So for human beings, instinctive behavior is changeable. Animals are programmed by instinctive behavior. Human beings, the adults one, can override their instinctive behavior and do better than what instincts dictate to them. And this is actually one of the most important factors that differentiate human beings from animals. So that's comment about the instinct impact of instincts of human beings. Now let's talk about taqdeer for all human beings. So in addition to the universal taqdeer and the biological taqdeer and the instinctive behavior, people are subject to many factors beyond human control. So whatever factors are beyond human control is their taqdeer. So the kind of family we are born, the social environment, the society, the ethnic group, all these things are beyond our control, and this is part of our taqdeer. The psychological laws and factors which impact our personality and our psyche, that's also taqdeer. and it's common from among people. But most important part of human taqdeer is the freedom to choose, the freedom to make decisions, freedom to act. So this is part of the taqdeer, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us capability that we can make free decisions and make choices according to our own will and our own preferences. And lastly, our resurrection after death and accountability, this is all part of human taqdeer. But let's spend more time on discussing the freedom to choose and freedom to make decisions and freedom to act. This ability and freedom is not against taqdeer as some people think. Some people think that the decisions are already made for us. That's not true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this power, and he has allowed us. If he would have not allowed us, that was different. But he has, it is a part of his plan, it's a part of the taqdeer that he allowed us, that in given situations we can make our own decisions, we can choose between options, and we can act accordingly. And that is by Allah's will. Had he wanted, he could have completely pre-programmed us, just like he has pre-programmed all the animals and everything else in the universe. But he intentionally granted us freedom. And not only that he granted us freedom, he never ever forces us to make any decisions or choices. He has granted us real freedom, and that's why some people are terribly evil, they are wicked, they are corrupt, they do a lot of bad things, and still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets them do whatever they are doing, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to impact anyone's freedom. Allah, that's the freedom we are being tested about. This is what we are being be held accountable about. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not impact this in any way, so that the test remains legitimate and pure without any influence. And this is the kind of freedom which makes us accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never hold us accountable for matters already decided for us. Like, for example, what kind of family we are born, that's not our decision. So we are not going to be held accountable. Our physical features, the color of our hair or the eyes or our physical attributes, none of them we are going to be questioned about, because these are the matter decided for us. What we'll be held accountable about is that given the circumstances, what kind of free decisions we made, what options we chose, and how we acted and behaved, what kind of lifestyle we adopted. So, and this includes whether we try to rise above our instincts and the psychological factors or not. So this was to clarify that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us freedom. But one important thing, when he has granted us freedom, there was chance, and it does happen, and quite often it happens, that we make wrong choices, we do wrong things, we commit evils. So to save us from that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kindly and mercifully granted us Islam. That when you are making your decisions, if you make your decisions according to the guidance I've provided you through Islam and through Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then your decisions will be good decisions which will benefit you in this world and the hereafter. But if you don't, then there will be that your wrong decisions will create problems in the society. And so it was a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he did grant us freedom, but with freedom to save us from making bad decisions, he also granted us Islam. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Ala. And He says, وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى, that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who determined our taqdeer, gave us freedom as part of our taqdeer, fahada, and also provided us guidance. So all these factors we have talked about are applicable to all human beings. When it comes to individual human beings, a person, all of these are applicable to individuals. In addition, all the circumstances, environments, incidents, and events that a person goes through during his life that are totally beyond one's control, that is also our taqdeer. We find ourselves in those circumstances, and that's our taqdeer. Taqdeer is actually everything which is beyond our control. And the freedom part is the only part in the taqdeer where we have option to make decisions and for which we'll be held accountable. Now, one thing here, let's look at this in a picture form so it becomes clearer. So taqdeer of humanity as a whole includes the physical laws which apply to everybody. They also include the biological systems and processes which apply to all living organisms. It also there is an impact of instincts which are totally applicable to animals. And then part of our taqdeer is the freedom to act. So I hope this clarifies where we are bound by taqdeer and where the taqdeer allows us to make our decisions independently and freely. 2 points before we conclude, and that is the natural consequences of actions. That every human action has a predetermined results. We are free to choose what we want to do. We are free to choose actions, but we are bound by the natural results of the actions. We cannot get away from natural results. If we work hard, we are going to succeed. If we are going to be lazy, we choose to be lazy, we will have to suffer the consequences of being lazy. If I cut myself with a knife, I cannot avoid the circumstance, the results of my action, my body will bleed. If somebody takes poison, the person is free to choose and take poison, but cannot run away from the results of the poison. The poison is going to do whatever it's pre-programmed to do. So we should understand clearly that although we are free to make choices and take actions, the results of the actions have predetermined consequences and results, which we cannot override or change. And another part is that although we are free to make decisions, if we keep making the same decisions again and again and again, if we keep following the same path again and again and again, over time it becomes easier for us to do the same thing, and it becomes more difficult for us to do something different. So the prime example is, look at the picture on the right, that you can see the deep ruts. The more we keep doing the same thing, the deeper our ruts become, and the more difficult for us to get out of that path. If that path is leading us to destruction, the more we do it, the more difficult it becomes for us to leave that path and come to the right path. So sometimes we impose these kind of limits on ourselves. And when Holy Quran talks about the sealing of hearts, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. That when we continue rejecting the truth, we continue rejecting the truth and arguing against it and abandoning it and fighting against it, we keep getting deeper and deeper into ruts, and our hearts continues to close more, and our mentality becomes more closed, more closed, more closed, and until a time comes that doesn't matter how obvious the truth is, we are not willing to accept it. And that is called the sealing of the hearts or the sealing of the mind, which Quran talks about. So this was the explanation of different forms of taqdeer and or these different levels of taqdeer, and hopefully it has clarified the concept to you. In the next third installment of this program, we are going to talk about many questions which people ask about taqdeer, and we are going to answer those questions. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.